What's up, everybody? Welcome back. I am John Levesque, and I am here, joined today by Marc Gerner. Marc, how's it going, buddy?
Doing good. What about you?
I'm doing awesome, man. It's I've had like 6 or 7 days of sun here in Seattle. I think it's a record.
Oh, we've got exactly the same thing. A little bit of rain on last Sunday, but that's all. It's
Nice,
really nice these days.
nice. It's turning back to rain for us, so I didn't want to
Ah,
spoil it. That's okay. All right. So for those of you who don't know Marc is from the Netherlands. Marc is a community player. He does a bunch of dynamics and CDS and all that goodness and some Power Automate in there to make it all work as well. Today, though, he's going to show us a CDS 101. And so I'm going to go ahead and hand this off to Marc to go ahead and introduce himself a little bit better and to talk about what he's going to teach us today. Marc, the floor is yours, my friend.
okay, so cool. Thank you for this opportunity, John. Let me share my screen and show me my slides. So I'm going to tell you something today about the basics of an entity in a common data service. Let me first introduce myself. My name is Marc Gerner. I'm a senior solution architect with the company Lumen Business Solutions in the Netherlands. It's a very small company. We do both Power Platform. I've been in it since it's called Dynamics CRM 2011, which is a long time ago. And I also do Dynamics Business Central, which for those of you who don't know is the ERP side. And back in those days, it was called Dynamics NAV 2009. So I go along a lot back. So I specialize in integration, especially between the Power Platform and Business Central. That is not a given thing, unfortunately. So we use TIBCO Scribe for that. And lately, I also use a lot of Power Automate or Azure Logic Apps to do those integrations, which work really nice together.
Awesome.
Now, I'm also the founder of the Dutch Customer Engagement User Group, which we call Customer Engagement Professionals Netherlands. And if you want to reach out for me, here on the bottom of this slide, there's my LinkedIn, my blogs, my Twitter, and lately I started my own YouTube channel.
Woo!
Woohoo! That
Oh,
was
yeah.
since I did my first YouTube video on the Power Platform conference last March, which was really cool as well.
That was awesome. That was a great session, man. And if you guys want to connect with Marc, I'll go ahead and put all his links down in the description. And so, Marc, couple things. One, go ahead and minimize me in that bottom corner there. Get rid of my second video there. Awesome. They don't need to see me twice. And then next thing is, so now we know you. What are you going to teach us about today?
I'm going to teach you about an entity. And so basically, what's an entity? There are a lot of things that go on in an entity, but an entity is inside Common Data Service.
Okay. So if I didn't know what the Common Data Service is, what's that?
Well, that is not an easy thing to explain because it's a lot of things. In basics, it is a database that is run completely as software as a service for you, where happens a lot of things because it's not only a database, but there's also business logic in it. There is permissions in it so that you can users give a specific permission what they can or cannot do on changing data or viewing data. That's where my session on the Power Platform conference was about. And an entity in the Common Data Service is basically the basics of one table. So one data set with similar data with fields, forms, views, etc.
Okay.
So the most important part are the fields, right? Because that's the basis of all. But you also have forms which can visualize that data on that fields. Now there are views. If you want to have a list of that data, you can make relationship between different entities. We're going to look into that as well in a minute. And we've also got business rules for people that want business logic in it. You can create dashboards, charts, and lately also keys that is now in it, I think for about a second, which you can create quick find fields on.
Okay.
So if you've got keys in it, you'll find quicker on that data that you put keys on it. But that's something different. That's something, well, a bit harder. So if you are in the basics, let's focus on the bottom four fields, forms, views, and relationship. That's where we're going to
Okay. All right. So
So
to
today.
recap real quick, the Common Data Service, it's a relational database, has
Yeah,
a whole bunch of goodness like security. I can do things like forms. And what we're talking about today is an entity, which is a grouping of the data, a table within that
yeah,
database. And then we're going to break down how fields and forms and views and relationships happen in an entity, which then lives inside of that Common Data Service.
correct. Totally
Awesome.
correct.
Okay, cool. I
So
am with you.
okay, so what I think is what we should do is just create an entity. And while I'm creating it, I'll show you what kind of data is in there, what you can do with it, with an
Perfect.
entity.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do here is I already opened up a total new environment, and I created a very simple app called Conference.
Okay.
So there's nothing yet in this app apart from contacts, and the contact entity is something that you get by default from Microsoft. So Microsoft thinks every database involves contacts. So that you get already that. You don't have to create that by yourself. And what I think we should do is create a very simple conference entity here, so that you can track, if you want to, what the conference title is, who's the owner or the project manager of the conference, what the start time, date time, and which attendees you've got, so that you've got the relationship between a conference on one side and your contacts on the other side attending that conference.
Nice. This is handy. There's a lot of
Yeah,
people doing a lot of virtual conferences and events these days. This could be
correct.
useful, I think.
Cool. So you always start from a solution, because if you want to use this app later on in a different environment, you can export that solution with all your modifications in it.
Yep.
So let me create a solution. I call it conference. Oh,
You know,
oh,
there's a whole bunch of benefits to solutions as well. You can use parent and child flows. You can build every kind of piece of the platform in
yeah,
the solution builder. Exporting and importing is so much easier. You have version management. There's a whole lot of reasons why you should just be building everything in solutions anyways.
correct. Yeah, I always start with solution. You can also grab the create button here, but that, well, you're going to regret that if you didn't do it in a solution afterwards.
Yep.
So let me create it, and I've got a conference solution, and now on this side, there is nothing yet in it. Now I want to make this new conference entity, so I just click new and I click entity. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. And I want to give it a name. So let's say conference. And with an entity, you also get a plural name. That is because the name and the plural name come into the application on several occasions. So you want to view the plural name on some places. Now, I also give it a technical name, which can be perfectly just conference like that, and the display name of the entity, the primary field, which I call conference title.
Nice. Okay.
Okay, let's create it. And in the background, it's provisioning my entity. That's also what the program says, provisioning your entity in the background. In the meantime, I can just create everything that I need. So, oh, there it is already. Goes
Look
pretty
at that.
fast.
That was good and fast.
These are all the fields you already get out of the box. Some are very useful. So the conference title that I created, and I created by, created on, modified by, modified on. That's just something that the application, that the Common Data Service keeps track of you without you need to do anything. So
Yep.
that's a good thing. Also the owner field, and that contains a lot of permission properties. So based on the owner of the records, you can do all kind of security things, which you can look up in my Power Platform Conference Center as well. So for now, I've got a conference title, which is the most important part, and I got an owner, which is the guy or the girl that runs the conference, is the conference manager. Now, what I also need is, for instance, start date time. And I'm going to just add a field, and I'm going to say, okay, when does it start? And this is the data type. Now, at this point, it's text, but there are really a lot of different sort of data types. So I've got different forms of text, I've got numbers, and I've got date time, which we're going to look into now. But as you can see, there's so much more you can do: a currency, a customer, a decimal number, even a file that you need to upload to the system. It's all there.
There are
You don't need to
so
program
many different
anything.
data types there. It's incredible.
It's, yeah, and I've been thinking about doing a video about all of this, but it takes probably too long to explain everything. So let's just do daytime for now.
You
So
know what? It'd have to be a series, I think.
yeah, oh,
It's
that's
a
a
good
good thing.
idea for your YouTube channel. Do a
Yes,
series.
good. I will do that. A
Awesome.
series on field types.
Yes.
Okay, so there are a lot of properties that you can set on a field, and one of those things is if it's required or not. In this case, a date time, I want it to be required because I want to see in my fields and forms when the actual conference starts, right?
Makes sense.
So based on a field data type, you've got all kind of additional properties. And one of the data type date time properties is the behavior. And you have got two options there: useful local and time zone independent. Now, this is
Mm,
also a cool feature that comes out of the box. If you want to show the information in a user local time, then you can use user local. If you say, okay, this is time zone independent, then everybody around the world sees exactly the same daytime.
huh.
But a conference, if the conference starts at 7 a.m. or 7 p.m. on my side, I want you to see a different thing because your online session doesn't start at the same time at your place.
Yeah.
So let's do behavior user local. Now there's this IME mode also. I just leave it to auto. I had to look it up yesterday what it actually means, and it's got something to do with Chinese and Japanese language. So I'll
Ah,
just
okay.
leave it. I
Got
just
it.
always leave it. So let's say done. It is bold here so that you see it's new. I've got a new one. Let me create quickly the end. Okay, and another daytime and done. So I've got a couple of fields here that are important now: conference title, start, end, and the owner, which I'm going to do, which I'm going to use further up in my app. Now, before I move away, navigate away, don't forget to save entity, because if you don't, it's just not going to be created.
It's very important. It's a very important
Yes,
step.
very. I've done that well quite a lot of times
Oh
already.
yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Same.
So on the top here on the entity, you see all kind of things you can set up for the entity besides fields. And one of the things that we needed to set up is the relationship, because I want to create a relationship between the conference and the contact based on the attendees that come to my conference.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I add a relationship, I've got three options: many to one to many, and many to many. So this is kind of hard to explain. For now, we need a many-to-many relationship. That is because, seen from my conference entity, I want many customers, many attendees to be able to connect to that conference. Now, seen from the contact entity, I also want many conferences to be an attendee of. So both sides have many, and that's why you need to do many to many.
Got it.
So
Okay. That makes
if
sense.
that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you say one at one of those places, you can say one instead of many, then you choose either one of the two above.
I love your reasoning there. That's actually a really great logical way to think about it, from the attendee side. If I want to go to a lot of them, I need to have many.
Yeah,
And then also from the conference side, if I want to have a lot of people come, I
correct.
need to have many. I love that. I love how you just reasoned
Yeah,
that out so user centric. I think for that makes sense for anybody. So I really appreciate that.
cool. So that's nice. Thank you. Now on the entity, I've got already my conference entity here, but I also want to select the contact entity. And as you see now, there are a lot of entities already out of the box because this is a total empty CDS. And you can see that there's a lot, for instance, phone calls that I can record. Um, but
All
also the
kinds of
content.
things.
Yeah, well, you get all of this out of the box. Well, not for free because you have to pay it, but you get it without a fuss. Now, you can set up a specific relationship name. I always just leave it as it is because they come with a good advice. I press done. Again, don't forget to save entity. Now, what I just did is I created two fields and a relationship, and that's basically all I need for the data model. That means that I can store everything in there. I just don't have the tools yet to store it because I don't have a form that I can fill in. So in this case, I go to forms, and there are a couple of form types, but if you're starting with CDS, just keep track on the main form because the main form is what people will see. So the card and the quick view form, and there are some other form types as well. They're used throughout the application, but if you're a starter, just focus on the main form.
Nice. Good tip.
So let me go to the form. Oh, I need to sign in. Don't know why, but let's do that real quick. And I've got this whole cool form designer that I actually, what you see is what you get. That is real nice.
That is.
Really good. Okay, so I've got a couple of things here. Everything is in a tab. I've got one tab in this case, it's the general tab. In the tabs, I've got sections, and sections have formatting. So on the right, I've got formatting, and it also shows me the amount of columns that I can have next to each other. Now let me quickly set this to 2, and then you can see that I can move over, for instance, the owner field to the right. And I've got 2 columns besides each other. I've got a conference title on the form. I've got an owner on the form. Now let's create the start field and the end field. I just drag and drop them on the form. So that is really cool.
Nice.
And now I want to have a new section below this information with my attendees. So let me go to the components tab on the left, and I've got sections and tabs. Now I could do a new tab, but in this case, I'll just do a 1 column section on the bottom of this. I give the section a name, attendees. I'm not sure if it's with an A or with an E.
E.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thank you.
No problem.
And what I want to do there is I want to show the relational data, which are the contacts. Now that's called a subgrid. On the bottom here, I also got subgrid. So let me click that. It takes a while to load because it needs to load all the relationships. And now I only want to show related records, not all records, but just the related records, the related contacts to this conference. Now let me click this. Now it immediately shows that there is only one entity related, and that is the contacts. And I want my default view to be all the contacts that are related. Now I said done. And as you can see, there comes a grid here. Now all I need to do is save. Again, don't forget to save.
Always
and
save.
Go back. Always save.
I usually save
Go
and
back.
then save again.
Yeah, that is very wise as well.
Yeah.
So there's one more feature I want to show to you before I'm going to actually show you what it's like this this conference, and that is views, because the views are the lists that you're going to see in the application. So let's say I've got the view active conferences. Then you can see, okay, currently there are just 2 fields on there. And I don't really bother about the created on, so let's remove that. But I do bother about the start, that I have about the end, and I probably also want the owner field. Now you don't see the owner field here, but that's because that's set to default. And I just want to see all. That means that all the fields that are in there are shown to me. And I also want to see the owner here. So now I've got a list, I've got the view, the form, everything is set to be my first conference app. Now, let me quickly go over to one more thing that we need to do, as we need to change the app that is already got there to also contain the conference entity that we added.
Okay.
So let me go back to the conference solution. I already got a conference app that I created yesterday. And the only thing that is not in there is the conference entity that we just created. So I just added an existing component in my CDS to this specific solution, which is the conference app. Now, when I open the conference app, I can actually modify the menu that is called the sitemap. And when I modify the sitemap, all I want to do is add here another sub area with the entity conference that I just made. Now there's a lot you can set up here, and all kind of things you can put in the menu or the sitemap as it's called. But for now, I'll just suggest leave it be for now, as you're a starter again.
So real quick here,
Don't drown in everything there is.
So what? Just because I don't want everyone to get lost in this, what you're doing
Okay.
here now is you're creating a Power App from the data of the entity you just created. You're saying, hey, Power Apps, here's this entity. Make
Yeah.
me a model-driven app that connects to all that.
Yes.
Perfect.
Correct.
Okay. And so those little menus he just went through were a couple checkboxes and selectors that you choose to tell the app, I want to do this or I want to do that. And now here we are at the designer of this back at the main screen of the app
Yeah.
designer. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
this is the app designer for model-driven apps. And the most important part for you as a starter is the sitemap, because that basically defines what you see and don't see. Now, I just put the conference entity that we already created on the menu so that we know that we can see it from a user perspective.
Awesome. Okay, cool.
Okay.
That's perfect.
Okay, now let me close this. And it says I haven't saved, but I thought I'd save, but let me save and close to be sure again.
See, save and
Now,
save again.
yeah, save and save again. There's one more thing before I can view actually what I did, and that is I need to publish all my customizations. If you changed anything, you modified anything, you need to publish it before you can actually see it. So I'm going to press publish, and probably if everything goes right, I now can start my app, my conference app. I can actually create a conference and put attendees on the conference.
Okay,
So
sweet.
let me go to the app. Let me open the conference app. And as you can see, I've got contacts. I've got already a couple of contacts. Well, you probably know them, John.
I love
All these
all those people.
Cool. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Now, in here, I've got conferences. Again, you see the Perl name. That's something that pulls the system down for you especially. Now I'm going to create a new conference, and this is the form that we created. Now, let's say the Power Platform Online Conference 2021, which will probably take place at the 9th of March 2021 from 8 a.m. to oh, no, that doesn't do it. 9th of March 2021 until 18 PR 18, which is basically, for those of you who don't know, I need to put it in the other format like this. And now let me save it. I've got the Power Platform Online Conference, and I can add existing contacts as attendees. So for instance, Daniel, but there are more people, John, Rebecca, Sarah, and Stephen are all going to be there. And now, just like that, in a couple of, well, I think 20 minutes, was it?
Yeah, about 20 minutes.
I've created a Power App, which is a conference app. I created a conference entity with a form and a view of attendees that are in there. I created a relationship. Everything is on there that I need. And let me quickly go back. Here you see the view, which I've got my conference title, start date, time, end date time, and the owner. That is actually the one managing this Power Platform online conference.
That's awesome. And the beautiful part about this for you watching at home, the beauty here is Marc did not have to create a separate area to manage attendees. This is the beauty of CDS, is he's leveraging another part of the platform that comes out of the box and tying it into a use case that he needs. Instead of having to create a whole nother place to store contacts for this event, you just have one central repository. You make that simple many-to-many relationship,
Yeah.
and now you're able to store contacts in one place and use them for many, many different purposes.
Yeah, you can create any entity you want if you have conferences, and you also do, for instance, well, what else would you be? A shop. You have a shop and you want to see who comes in and who comes out. You just
Yep.
create a new entity.
Customer
That's called shop,
contact,
customer
if someone
contact, shop
messages you or
visits.
calls you.
Everything is in there.
Totally, totally. There's a million possibilities with this, and I think what I love about CDS, and I think I heard it described one time. Sarah Critchley said this. She said it's like a supermarket. She said you can go and grow vegetables, right? You can grow carrots and you can grow turnips and you can grow celery, and that takes a lot of time, but it can be done. Or it's
Yeah,
like CDS. You just go to the supermarket and you pick out, I need carrots, I need turnips, I need this. Do you pay a little more than growing the vegetables yourself? Absolutely. But the effort
yeah.
saved, right, is something that we are all very akin to. And when we understand its power, I think it's something that opens up a whole lot of possibilities
Yeah.
for us, where the technical debt, I think, is a lot less.
Correct. And even the best part of that supermarket is you have one price for it and you have everything in there. You don't need to worry about, well, just need to pay for everything separately. There's one price and everything is in there. That's the best part.
I love it. Awesome. All right, Marc, thank you so much for coming and showing this to us today. Really
You're welcome.
appreciate you being here, man.
Great. Thank you. It was so much fun to do. Let's do another one as soon as
Okay.
possible.
I'm going to hold you to it. You guys heard it. Marc said, let's do another one. So
Yeah.
we'll see him back here.
We'll
All
do
right.
something
So,
else about entities.
dude, and I'm going to send people to your channel for your new series too.
Great. Thank you. Yeah.
All right.
Field type.
Yes. All right, guys, you know what to do. Go ahead and check the description. We're going to have a whole bunch of links for Marc down there. You can check out his online conference session. You can check out his YouTube channel, his Twitter, all his goodness. And be sure to click like and click subscribe and that little bell so that you don't miss another video from me. All right, much love. I'll see you guys in the next one.